Hey guys, welcome to the Transatlantic Sports Show. Congratulations, you are a part of history. History is being made with this very show, the first ever Transatlantic Sports Show on YouTube. Now, if you are an audio listener and this is the first time you've heard us talk about our YouTube channel, fear not, you're not missing out just yet, but make sure you head to YouTube and look for TASS_UK. That's TASS_UK. The Transatlantic Sports Show. We've got some shorts there as well. And the whole point of the shorts is we are getting you excited about UK friendly timed MLB games throughout the season. We've got a few stats and a few things to look out for each game, giving you a reason to tune into BT Sport for those UK friendly games. So if it's a game that's starting at around about 7 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the evening, on the weekend, ideally, we give you a reason to go over and watch out for those. The Transatlantic Sports Show, as you know, we are more than just NFL, although obviously, we take you behind the scenes of the NFL. I hope you enjoyed the Super Bowl episode. It was great fun out there in Phoenix, Arizona. We're going to be looking ahead to the draft over the next few weeks, but this show is all about the MLB and in particular, the London Series. This weekend, Easter weekend, is only 11 weeks away from the St. Louis Cardinals playing host to their arch rivals, the Chicago Cubs, at the London Stadium. Will it be a Premier League stadium or a championship stadium? Time will tell. We don't care about that. This is all about baseball. And I'm delighted to say that joining us to help raise your awareness and understanding and give you a little insight into one of the two teams that are coming over here. It's the Chicago Cubs. So my good friend Jeremy Diemer, he is the host of Wrigleyville Nation, the podcast. You can check those guys out with your podcast subscriber. Jeremy, Chicago native, welcome back to the show, my man.
Anthony, thanks for having me back. Glad to come on and talk Cubs and get excited for the London Series.
The London Series. Now, look, I've got this ball in my hand, right? I mean, look. Think of that as what you will, but I've got a baseball in my hand, folks. And if I pull this up to the screen, you might be able to see it there. Look.
Oh, we can see it. Yep.
London Series 2020, the game that never happened, the game that you had tickets to, Jeremy. Unfortunately, COVID struck.
I had tickets. I was so excited. I was ready to come there with, there was so many Chicagoans and Cubs fans ready to make that trip. We were all excited. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, the game's getting canceled. You've never seen a refund take longer also than when when we were just waiting for them to officially cancel the game and then send us the money back. But yeah, it took a long time. I was happy to hear that they are coming back now that we're in 2023. We're ready to see Cubs Cardinals because really the Cubs are in a much better position than they were in 2020. You're going to see a lot better of a Cubs team now than we've seen as Cubs fans on the field for the past few years.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah. 2019, by the way, was when we had the first ever London Series, and that was between two other fierce rivals, which was the Red Sox and the Yankees, and we were treated to a slugfest. I remember taking my eldest son, he was 7 at the time, doing the math in my head, and that first inning was 6-all, and it was an hour for the first inning, and I turned to my wife and my son, but my wife in particular was trying to point out it's never usually this long for an inning. We didn't last the whole game. It was a 6 o'clock start or 6:15. Meghan Markle threw the first pitch, incidentally, in that game. So who knows? Will it be Kate Middleton this time around? I mean, who am I to judge? I'm not going to say anything. Netflix might be there.
I can tell you that the risk of a lot of home runs is not on the table for this Cubs team. This is not something they're going to be known for, and it's not so. But I know the stadium does lend itself to that. The baseballs at the time in 2019 also lended themselves to that. There's different baseballs in play now. This team is not built. The Cubs team is not built for power. It is built for defense up the middle specifically. This team, the big addition in the offseason this season was Dansby Swanson signing with the Cubs from the Atlanta Braves. Some Cubs fans think that was the 4th best shortstop in the market, but So far, he's joined the team. He brings a Gold Glove at short. He's made already some really fun, spectacular plays, and he's brought a spark to the offense. He's started out way hotter than we're used to seeing. You know, we see a lot of big ticket free agents join teams and start slow under the weight of those and the pressure of those new contracts. But here, Dansby Swanson has joined the Cubs, come out hot, and he is a super fun player to watch, leading that charge up the middle defensively with second baseman Nico Horner. So Nico Horner was our shortstop, moved over to second base, and has really up the middle. That is a great infield. Cody Bellinger was another signing in the offseason. He is your center fielder. So he's coming with a great defensive pedigree here and trying to right the ship when it comes to his offensive struggles the past few seasons since really his MVP season and his injuries. So those were the big moves for the Cubs here, really defensively up the middle. That's the story. They lost a lot offensively, though, because their best offensive player was Wilson Contreras at catcher, and he has signed with those St. Louis Cardinals, who you'll see as the opponent in the London Series.
Well, we'll make sure to give him a boo when he steps up to the plate for you in this matchup, or those two games.
The thing is, he's a great guy. We want to cheer for Wilson's success, but we always want to boo the Cardinals in general. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, man. You know what? I think it was 59,659 was the crowd for the first game at the London Stadium back in 2019 between those Yankees and the Red Sox. I know the St. Louis Cardinals, I think their capacity is around about 45,000. So you're looking at an extra 15,000 fans in attendance for this game, which is going to be a neutral venue. And it's a home game. Well, they're both home games for the St. Louis Cardinals. So, you know, that as a Cubs fan, you must look at that and think, well, you know, neutral field here. There's a potential there to get two wins that you may necessarily not have been in the running for just because of the home advantage that the Cards had.
100%. And because this is the first year MLB is doing not a balanced schedule with the division play. So previous seasons, you would play the majority of your games against teams in your own division. This year, you are playing the same number of games across the entire league. So they're already playing significantly less games against the Cardinals. Now they're only going to St. Louis for one series this season because these home games for the Cardinals are in London. So absolutely, anytime you don't have to go to St. Louis to play as a Cubs team, you're gonna take that.
Yeah. So tell us about this rivalry. It goes back, way back, doesn't it, to the 19th century? This Route 66 rivalry, derby, as we would call it over here. But in American terms, that's quite a lot of history. You know, that's a real rivalry going way back, almost as far back as the likes of Manchester United and Liverpool. If you look at the Football League structure over here and you go down to back to Victoria times, it's a rivalry that's right up there. Yeah,
absolutely. This is you mentioned Boston and New York, who were the previous London series. That is the number one baseball rivalry you think of. That also dates back incredibly long into the past. Cubs Cardinals is right behind that nationally when you think about that here in the U.S. So Cubs Cardinals are geographically very close. You're talking about a 5.5 hour drive between Chicago and St. Louis. So you get a lot of fans traveling back and forth, makes for a great atmosphere when those two teams play. And it's a fierce rivalry that, because both teams have had periods of success. Now, the Cardinals' success significantly more sustained than the Cubs, but the Cubs did have the 2015 and 2016 seasons where the Cubs won the World Series in 2016. 2015 was kind of their coming out party. This was the year where the rookies all hit at the same time. Chris Bryant, Addison Russell, you had all these guys hitting, and the Cubs defeated the Cardinals in the playoffs. And it was probably World Series aside, the most fun I've ever had at a baseball game was being in attendance for the elimination game at Wrigley Field when the Cubs beat the St. Louis Cardinals. So this rivalry does date back, but it's also got some freshness for the modern time as well.
Absolutely love that. And there's no better feeling. You could win the World Series, but if you stick one up those arch rivals of yours, en route, that's
little
that's
extra special.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I mean, you are a Chicago native, I believe. I know you love your Chicago sports. We'll talk about the Chicago Bears in just a moment, because you did come over here to support a Chicago team, and it was the Bears, and it was history in the making. The very first NFL game at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. I'm afraid they didn't do you a solid in that game and threw it away towards the end. But we'll talk about that in just a bit. But as a Chicago native, obviously there are two baseball teams in the Windy City. So how does that work? Are you either born into a Cubs family or born into a White Sox family? And if you're not, how do you make that choice?
That's a great question. And it is absolutely something you're born into. Mostly geographic. So the White Sox are the South Siders. So a lot of the south side of the city of Chicago, the south suburbs, mostly White Sox fans. And the north side are Chicago Cubs, Wrigley Field, a lot of the western suburbs as well. However, I grew up in the South, in White Sox territory, but my family was born and raised on the north side of the city, so I had Cubs fandom in White Sox territory. Now, it is not a rivalry between the two teams. It's a little brother type of relationship. So the White Sox are always upset that the Cubs get more attention, that the Cubs are trying to win more. They're doing things. They get more national games. They get more attention. So the White Sox are always craving to more attention, but they cheer. They're very actively rooting against the Cubs, and their fans are very anti-Cub. But Cubs fans are anti-Cardinal. Cubs fans are anti the rest of our division. Then we can be bothered by what's going on with the White Sox, but it's not in our radar. We don't focus on that as Cubs fans. But the White Sox, they sure do. You'll see the Cubs score flash on the screen and get significant boos in their stadium.
Well, you know what? Like Cubs fans, I think of National Lampoons, and you've got Clark Griswold. He's a Cubs fan, clearly. Home Alone, I think, what's it? Buzz's bedroom. I think he's got some Cubs stuff and some naughty magazines in the truck as well. But that's that. But at least White Sox, they've got Field of Dreams, right? I mean, do you watch Field of Dreams? Do you suffer any kind of angst whilst watching Field of Dreams, and a film that's devoted to the White Sox?
Again, the White Sox are just another team for us. When in 2005, when they did win the World Series, we watched and supported them as the Cubs were not doing anything. We watch and support them as a city. Going and I'll go to a couple. They have a nice ballpark. I'll go to some Sox games. Which makes me a better fan than some of the White Sox fans. But I will go to some of those games, but because it's a nice stadium. But no, it's not something that the Cubs fans really are bothered by or anything. It's definitely a one-sided relationship when it comes to interest.
Absolutely love that. That's great. All right, look, can you see the Cards and Cubs rivalry traveling over here? I know we were talking off air before recording, and you're hoping to possibly come over, and you said about the 2020 series that never happened, and there were Cubs sites, blogs, and vlogs and podcasters who were looking at coming over to cover that game. But from a fan point of view, can you see Cubs and Cards fans coming over here like we do see with the NFL fans? Make it a trip. It's something it's there on the calendar, and if you're going to go to one or two games in a season, why not go to London?
For sure. I can tell you, yeah, 2020, that series, there were so many. Cubs fans already travel incredibly well. If you turn on any Cubs broadcast on an away game, you'll see swaths of blue in all throughout the stadium, and that's because Cubs fans travel incredibly well. And so London was no exception. This wasn't something that we were all excited within the Cubs blogosphere, within Cubs fans in general, to go and make that trip. And anyone who talked to me, the first thing I would tell them is, I've been to London a bunch of times. It is a great, great time. It is one of my favorite cities in the world. Make it a point to go there in general. If you can also see the Cubs, can't miss. And so we were pushing hard for that around here as well. And so I know that I was already talking to people about setting up plans, get-togethers, meetups for everyone out there, and it was really going to be something. And it's disappointing it didn't happen. But I think this time you will still see a good contingent of the Chicago faithful traveling over there. I don't know how well the Cardinals fans will travel internationally, but I can tell you, my prediction is the building will be 60-40 Cubs fans.
All righty. Hey, and you know what? You're featuring on the Transatlantic Sports Show. You might be able to inch it even to 70, maybe 75% Cubs fans.
There's plenty of room on this bandwagon for anyone who wants to come on. Just pull up a chair.
Get on, baby. Get on, baby. I think it's great as well that the first London series that's reintroduced post-pandemic is the one that didn't happen. It's got a great story to it. Obviously, it's a sad story, what happened in 2020, but also it just shows and it celebrates that we've all got through it together, and you didn't have it in 2020, but here we go. We've got this rivalry to kick off, hopefully, a decade, even more of MLB games over here in Europe.
Yeah, and these games are not just random regular season games. Like I mentioned, they don't meet up a lot of times here this season, and the Cardinals are the heavy favorites in this division. They are, and it's not going to take a lot of wins to win this division. This division is bad. So the Cardinals with, under 90 wins could win this division. So the Cubs, these are their opportunities against the Cardinals, and Cubs are predicted to finish somewhere, second or third, with Milwaukee in the mix there as well. So these games are going to be really important, and the Cubs and Cardinals, these games will impact the division championship, the standings, and who will move out. No wild cards are coming out of this division, so you have to win the division to get into the playoffs. So these will be. You don't want to lose any games or waste any opportunities against the team at the top of the division.
Well, we're only a week into the 2023 season. Things haven't gone particularly great for the Cubs. At time of recording, going into the Easter weekend, they're 2-3. But how are you feeling about what you've seen so far? You talked about some of the exciting players to watch and to keep an eye on for us over the next 11 weeks ahead of the London series. But in general, from what you've seen so far, only we're talking a small sample size of 5 games in a 162 game season, but room for optimism. You said that there's not going to be any wild cards to come out of the central division there, but how are you feeling looking ahead?
Yeah, it's so this is the time of season where I'm constantly reminding myself, having others remind me. Small sample sizes. Let's not get crazy. We have a podcast every single week. We have to talk about the Cubs, so we have to take a pause. We have to take a beat and step back and say, no, small sample size. We cannot make decisions yet on how things are going. So coming out of the first week here of the season, what we've seen from some of the players. We'll be excited when Seiya Suzuki returns to this lineup. That's what I can see right away. There's a gap here in right field. There's a gap in this batting order that will be it will make everybody else better when a guy like Seiya Suzuki's in that lineup. So we are anxiously awaiting him to return from an oblique injury. So those are nasty and can linger all season. So we're hoping that he takes the time, gets healthy, comes back, makes this team better. And we then have, your the rest of this pitching staff has. We've seen Marcus Stroman dominate and look really good. We saw Justin Steele look really good, and some of the bullpen arms, Keegan Thompson, Adbert Alzolay. These are guys that we want to see them continue to take steps and grow and continue to on their journey of becoming key contributors to this team going forward. So watching the young pitchers develop is something else we want to keep an eye on here. And so far, the results are as expected or exceeding expectations a little bit. So we know that offense is going to be the struggle for this lineup. So one game in Cincinnati where they had a good showing. You don't get to play the Reds all the time, unfortunately, and that's that's tough for the offense. So we'll keep our expectations understated, knowing that this is still a small sample size. But right now, nothing has shocked us other than what a great start Dansby Swanson's had.
Amazing. Yeah. Something of note from the opening series, so opening weekend. This was ahead of the Red series. A few of the issues seem to be around pitching. For example, across the opening weekend, as I said, the starting pitching had the second lowest ERA, which is earned run average, and it was at 1.69. And then the second highest bullpen ERA in the National League. It's 7.36. So, I mean, there's a massive gulf there in, you're hardly throwing any runs with your pitching to then your bullpen comes in and then, wow, here we go. It's almost like 6 times more. Well, not 6 times more, but 6 more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, we had Assad did not have a good game. Merriweather did not have a good game. Those two guys accounted for the majority of these bullpen problems. Now, Merriweather has bounced back a little bit here. Assad is a guy I think you want to get down to the minor leagues to stretch out for some additional pitching depth. We saw how well he pitched in the World Baseball Classic, so we'd like to see him do that. But the real question is, why were those guys in those situations? And that put a lot of the spotlight onto David Ross, who's the manager of the Chicago Cubs. David Ross has been the manager of the Cubs while this team has been bad, and the expectations have been just finish the season and make sure no one gets hurt, right? And now expectations are a little different here. You're expected to compete and take a step forward and see these teams take a step forward. So now when David Ross makes a questionable call, like sticking with Assad longer than he should, sticking with some of these guys, the decisions that he's making, we're now asking harder questions of David Ross. And so that's another story to watch as this plays out is David Ross a good manager? We don't know. And so we're going to have to keep an eye on that. So it might not be it might not be a bullpen problem. It might be a roster construction problem. It might be a problem with manager. So those are all things that we're keeping an eye on here as the season unfolds.
Interesting stuff. Yeah. Just if you're watching this on YouTube or if you're listening, I can see my screen. Well, the camera and how I look, and the sun setting over here in the UK, and the sun is now glaring in my face. So as Jeremy's talking, I'm trying to move and just circle myself. You might hear the chair creak every now and again. So I'm just trying to get out of the sun. There's nothing much I can do with that, but that's absolutely fine. But yeah, I mean, David Ross, he's a former Cubby as well himself. So how does that feel for fans? Is there a bit of an emotional attachment there? Because we see it in football over here, where you have former players and former great players, and a lot of the time, those great players don't make good coaches.
It's very true, and that's something that we love David Ross, Grandpa Rossi in the 2016 championship year, and David Ross was brought in to follow Joe Madden, who was beloved and did a tremendous job here. But he came in at a time where the team said, "We're tearing it down. We're transitioning. We're going to try to rebuild," and uh, kind of nobody paid attention to David Ross. Is just like, yeah, this is the guy you want in the clubhouse because the veteran players love him. The front office loves him, and so he's a guy who can help you bridge this gap of completely tearing down and rebuilding to ideally being competitive again. But then you have to decide, is he the guy when you're competitive again to take you to that next level? So the Cubs went through this similarly with Rick Renteria, who was their manager until Joe Madden became available, and then get out of here, bring in Joe Madden, and the rest was history.
Man. All right. Well, look, between now and June 25th, 24th, we'll hook up with you again. You know, we're into the month of April, maybe towards the end of April. We'll check in and see how developments are with the Cubs. And, you know, we're starting the journey. As I said at the top of the show, this is going to be a story. Come June, you're going to be well into your Cubs. You're going to know these names that Jeremy's talking about, and then you're going to go to those games and you're going to know who you're going to be looking out for. And you're going to know the stories behind them, all thanks to Jeremy and the Wrigleyville Nation podcast. Make sure you subscribe and check those guys out and us here at the Transatlantic Sports Show podcast. But Jeremy, I was saying, and I teased it, you know, you're a Chicago Bears fan. Looking at the hockey sticks behind you there, I would take it you are a Chicago Blackhawks fan. Congratulations on ending that, 6-7 game losing streak against the Calgary Flames the other night. That was good. Did my Winnipeg Jets a solid. However, Calgary then went and beat Winnipeg. But still, the Jets are in there. They're clinching onto that final wildcard spot.
Well, the Blackhawks are trying desperately to get the number one pick in this draft. They're trying to be as bad as possible. So we want to see them continue to lose and be bad for Bedard and that first overall pick in the NHL, which is something that the Bears had in the NFL. So we were very excited as the Bears had that number one pick, was able to trade down, parlay that into adding a tremendous wide receiver in DJ Moore, and then getting additional first round picks while also picking in the top 10 of this draft. So having a competent front office for the Bears has already been one of the most exciting off seasons we've seen.
You must be thinking, what is going on with my franchise here? At the start of last season, it was, you know, you had the quarterback, and it was a lot of the talk about, well, you haven't got the offensive line, you know, and quarterback, he's no good. He can't throw in his back. And unfortunately, we saw that a few times with the Bears throughout the season. Got off to a great start, though, in that monsoon against the San Francisco 49ers. So there's room to build with the Chicago Bears. But you did come over and cheer on those Bears, as we said, at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. It was a bit unfortunate towards the end of that game. However, you know, what an experience it was. I was fortunate enough to go up into the upper tier where you were, and we hooked up and had a little comment about the S in the end zone with the Raiders. I remember saying that. We're like, we couldn't unsee it after that.
You pointed it out to me, and it broke me the rest of the game. I told everyone that sat around me, I'm like, look how crooked that is. And, no, it was a tremendous experience getting to go. That stadium was great. You can tell that the NFL had influence into what a American football game would look like in this stadium. There wasn't a bad sightline from anywhere. I was in the upper tier, like you mentioned, but wow, had perfect views of the Raiders running all over the Chicago Bears defense. But no, it was a tough game, but a great experience. And the way that London and the NFL put on that's something that I came back and was telling plenty of folks around here that if you get the chance to go see an NFL game in London, not only is it great to see the stadiums that these games take place in, but it's also another excuse to get to London, which I'm always pushing. That's right. And look, the Bears have got international marketing rights with
the UK. And I was with Chase Claypool just a few weeks ago, International Women's Day. So that was the 8th of March. So just, well, about a month ago. And, nice guy. I asked him about Justin Fields and, what it was like transitioning from a pocket passer such as Ben Roethlisberger and going to Justin Fields. And he didn't talk much about Ben, but he talked glowingly about Justin Fields, which was really, really cool. I mean, it's all the, the usual stuff that you would expect from an NFL player to say, but still, he's excited about what's to come. And I think, and that was before the trade had even been made. And I think, getting DJ Moore on that wide receivers core with him, I think it's just going to add to his strengths as well, because there's no way that I think Chase Claypool is a number 1 or a number 2 wide receiver, but it just adds to that depth, as you said earlier on. And also, fans of the Transatlantic Sports Show will know I was out at Munich last season for the first ever NFL Germany game, and it was the Patriots. Tom Brady, he won out there. He actually won a game against the Seattle Seahawks. But Jeremy, if your Bears ever get out to Germany, oh my goodness, I was at the Super Bowl this year. Obviously, I cover the London games, but Munich is something different. It is, Frankfurt's another venue that they're going to play an NFL game. But Germany as a whole, they have a bigger fan base than the UK. But oh my goodness, it's an experience, a sporting experience I've never had before.
Oh, that's great to know. Yeah, cool. Hopefully the Bears get out there and I can see them on the road again. Always worth traveling for the NFL in Europe for sure.
Yeah, look, Jeremy, we kept you on long enough. Have a nice Easter weekend. Do you have the long weekend like we do over here? We have Good Friday off as a bank holiday and Easter Monday as well, so it's a 4-day weekend.
Yes, it's a long weekend here. We just coming off of spring breaks as well, so it's good when you're still in vacation mode to be able to roll into a nice weekend. So enjoy the long weekend yourself, and thanks for having us on. Always appreciate it. Like you mentioned, WrigleyvilleNation.com is the website where you can find all the information on how to subscribe to the podcast. You can also follow us on Twitter at WrigleyvilleNat. Same thing for Instagram. And we have a YouTube as well. So if you're consuming podcasts via YouTube like you are right now, you can do that on our channel as well, youtube.com/Wrigleyville Nation. And
if you're watching this, you will see Jeremy's Twitter handle underneath his wonderful face on YouTube. It is at Diemer Chicago, Diemer Chicago. On social media, on Twitter. So yes, thank you very much, Jeremy. Thank you everyone for watching the Transatlantic Sports Show. I'm going to go and put my Ray-Bans on now because this sun is glaring in my eyes, but enjoy the Easter weekend of baseball. And look, we're gearing up to the NFL draft as well. So we're back with a bang on the Transatlantic Sports Show. Follow us on YouTube. As I said, we're going to have lots of video content up there, including our series of YouTube shorts. So if you're wanting to watch one of the games, the MLB games on BT Sports, and you're thinking, okay, well, why should I tune in? You got 60 seconds of me telling you what to look out for in those particular matchups. We'll be back soon. Unfortunately, it won't be a weekly podcast this week. I am hot-footing it over to Paris, but when I'm back, we'll be back again. And Thursdays are going to be baseball days, and we're probably going to look around Tuesdays, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for your NFL coverage. And we got an exciting NFL guest, a player who was drafted in 2022 is going to be coming on the show very soon, probably around draft time. Funny that, but yeah, we'll more details on him to come, and also an exciting guest who is a new appointment to NFL Europe. More on that to come. But thanks again for subscribing. Until next time.